And we're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the GeekVerse podcast. This has been a long one coming. Episode 7, spoilers review of Chucky Season 2 is what we're going to be getting into today. But before we get into that, a couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. Be sure to check us out on our Patreon. We can get ad-free, early, exclusive episodes available there. Additionally, we have a huge round of applause to our patron producers, Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Smalley Biggs, Joshua Wright. You folks are fantastic. Just thank you for everything you do. You help keeping the ship running. We're just going full steam ahead. It's going to be a good time with a whole bunch more content we got coming your way. On top of that, you can also check us out on Manscaped. You get 20% off Manscaped with free shipping with the promo code GVPOD at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with the code GVPOD at manscaped.com. Definitely indulge. The products are fantastic, stellar, through the roof. Now, we're going to get into this because I think I hit all the plugs. Well, actually, a couple more things. We have Andor finale coming up this week. Again, the Chucky finale episode is coming up next week as well. And yeah, Avatar Retrospective is in the works. After 9 just dropped this past Saturday, and Travis Told Yous are dropping as well this week. And then we also have we did the side quest. Me and Kirklin dived into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and then we're going to be continuing that conversation in another side quest episode with Dylan that's going to be coming out this week as well, where we drive into Al Mazrah, the Warzone 2.0 map and game mode that they've just dropped for Modern Warfare 2. So definitely tune into that because we take a whole deep dive into everything that new addition to the game has added. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, last week, the other Chucky episode, I believe I was talking about how I was getting all the positions into place. Everyone was like a chess piece kind of being put around. It's like, okay, here we go. We're getting into it finally. And this episode did not disappoint. It had so much stuff going on in such a very simple but linear, cohesive path forward that I loved it. I was seeing things that I thought, I just wasn't expecting I would ever see. There's one thing that I thought, holy shit. My wife was coming down the stairs when it happened because I watched this super early in the morning, and I jumped in front of the TV. Is like, don't look. This is not something that you need to look at like 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning. So I stopped her before she could see it, and then she watched the rest of the episode with me. But anyway, so there are things that they're kind of tackling, and we just got like caps off about just storylines that just needed to tie in and needed to connect together. And it was just so nice to kind of have these storylines ravel and intertwine finally. Because there's some things that we haven't seen kind of tie back up since the first season, let alone even in some movies we haven't even seen certain storylines connect and unfold. So just getting those connections with these characters really satisfied me as a Chucky fan, just to kind of see where things were finally, I don't want to say concluding, because this episode was far from that. I feel like this episode set itself up for where this could have been the season finale and still have that cliffhanger for another season. But we know we're getting that next week's episode because that is the previews out for it. It's the finale. Little spoiler alert, it might be Christmas themed, which, yeah, very exciting. But everything that was just kind of showcased in here, it had this nice kind of polished off climactic conclusion, and I really liked it. So I'm very curious how the next episode's just going to kind of open up this can of worms or whatnot, because there were things that just made me feel like it just, it ended, and I was in disbelief because I was kind of rooting for certain characters and certain things in this storyline, but we are where we are, and it just was no shortage of surprises whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is of everything that unfolded in this episode. And I think that's pretty much it for non-spoilers, because if I get into any more, I'm just going to start divulging all the deets here. So we're just going to get into that. If you haven't seen the episode, go take a watch and then come back and we'll get into the good stuff. So 3, 2, 1. We are entering in spoilers now. So We start off with Father Bryce and Jake in a confessional. Now, the tone is black and white, and they have like the red trim from the uniforms, a little bit of colorization. So I assumed at this point it was kind of like a dystopian scene of some kind, because Jake is confessing his responsibility of the murders of everyone, including Nadine now, because Nadine passed in the last episode. And then we transition to right after Nadine's death. So I didn't understand how this scene kind of works in the timeline, but again, it's character development, so this is important, and they do unravel what it means later. But following Nadine's death, we have Lexi, Devin, and Jake all running back downstairs, immediately getting caught by the doctor, held up by gunpoint. So good Chucky is still preaching he didn't mean to do it. And when the doctor takes him from Jake, he starts crying. And again, I'm not falling for it at this point because, I mean, he killed someone. That's fucking it. That is it. He killed someone. So the doctor is preaching how this is the last good guy doll and that they are super hard to come by. And this one is for Chucky Prime. And all of a sudden, Kyle steps in with her gun aimed at the doctor. Kyle has arrived here finally at the scene. This is fantastic. Glenda is with Kyle in this situation. They brought Nika. So Kyle reiterates what I said last week. When she finally sees Andy, just like, looks at him and says, "You look like I think you look like fucking Jesus," or something like that. Cracked me up because Andy looks like freaking Jesus. There's just it's a whole religious kind of connotation they're kind of going with here. But we then get the deal set up. Kyle wants Nika to be free, and so the deal consists of using the good Chucky body to save Nika. But there's an extra little kicker here because you run the risk of like a repeat of like the Chucky Nika thing, and it doesn't work very well if you have a Chucky soul possessing another Chucky soul. So Charles Lee Ray can't really be Charles Lee Ray. And the solution to this is they want to perform with Father Bryce an exorcism on the doll to remove that Chucky's soul to send it to hell, and then have the prime Chucky's soul, the original, go into this doll. So it's very convoluted, but very, very funny. So yeah, that's that. We then transition to Tiffany Valentine. She's in Jennifer's body, of course. She's incognito, trying to buy food at this station, a little convenience restaurant, and the TV station is on the news, talking about how she's a murderer, wanted, questioning all this stuff, house burned down. She starts freaking out when people are like, "Oh my gosh, like I need a photo with you, like you're Jennifer," and all this jazz. So she runs back to the car where Glenn is, and then she's claiming how she needs to switch her soul back into the doll so that she can avoid jail. So the real Jennifer is in the doll in the back seat, unfortunately, and she's super pissed because she doesn't want to go back into this body of her body, Jennifer, because now that Tiffany's ruined it for her. So we jump back to the school here, and we see the hospital taking Nadine's body away. Lexi is freaking out, and Devin and Jake just leave her alone. And for some reason, all the other kids in this school are totally oblivious to everything that's going on. You think they would notice, okay, kids are dying and the staff are being very weird, but I digress. Lexi turns to the pills and starts having a breakdown. We then get some really interesting dialogue here outside with our crew in the preparation for the exorcism. Again, the plan is to have Father Bryce remove good Chucky from the doll so it becomes an empty vessel for Chucky Prime. And this is when we finally get Andy meeting Nika. Now, the whole setup here is where, okay, everyone's going to have to confess their sins, and so everyone's kind of talking and just kind of letting loose a little bit. Now, Nika, not Chucky Prime, mind you, is talking with Andy, and we see Kyle and Andy have their catch-up moment, and just it's really cool to kind of finally get these character conversations between everyone. And yes, Nika came in a different iteration, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, but it's still fantastic to have Andy Barclay kind of play a role in this. Yes, he was in Cult of Chucky in the very minute scene, but both of them had their lives ruined by Charles Lee Ray and this weird little club formation that they got going on, how everyone's lives are affected. So it was cool to see. Now, good Chucky is still being super sus. They got him tied up, which is fantastic. And he lures Jake in like a little slowly. Jake kind of like closes in a little bit, and then good Chucky just smacks him with his head, then pretends like he doesn't know what he's doing all over again. So Andy puts a Hannibal Lecter mask on him and moves into another room. Again, I'm not buying this weird Chucky fighting the good, fighting the bad kind of mindset he's got. It's super sus. We flash back to Lexi, who's really in deep now after taking the pills. And all of a sudden, we have Angel Nadine appearing. I love the practical effects usage here. It was great. Super, super fantastic. Lexi attributes seeing Nadine, however, to taking the pills, but we can assume it's more than that because Angel Nadine and Lexi have a really powerful moment, and Lexi pulls back from taking these pills. And I loved it because Nadine has just been a fantastically grounding character. Well, some people might think, oh, she's stupid. I think you throw your stupids into a sack and toss that sack into the river, because that is bullshit. She's innocent and she is very kind-hearted. Well, at the beginning, you definitely don't have this trusting sense about her, but she's a very humble, genuine character, and it's just very unfortunate how she got taken advantage of by this killer, like killers can do. And so in this situation, her just being that comfort and projection of who she is onto Lexi is very good, because Lexi has been struggling this whole season with the whole pill taking and everything along those lines. So just her trying to overcome it. It's always been Nadine that's been able to help her do that. And even in death, Nadine had a moment here that could help her. Whether or not you want to say it was Nadine really and as an angel appearing there, or Lexi just managed to find the strength and the courage through herself by channeling that Nadine conversation they had in the bathroom a few episodes ago, however you want to put it. But at the end of the day, like, Lexi is growing into this person that can stop doing those things and just be more empowered. So I'm very excited to see her kind of grow as this character in the wake of being just tragically afflicted with Nadine's unfortunate death. So this is now jumping back to the confessional stuff. And what I thought initially of being that dystopian black and white component is now revealed. Okay, each individual has to confess their sins prior to the exorcism happening. Otherwise, exorcisms can go horribly wrong, and we don't want that to happen, especially not in a Chucky series. But before I continue, I'm going to jump to a quick ad break, and then we will be right back. And we're back. So, Father Bryce is, after he's doing these confessionals, again, they're like kind of interloped into the story here, and they're black and white, so you know that they're a confessional sequence, and they're involving the main characters so far that are going to be a part of this exorcism. Father Bryce has his own scene here where he's on the phone with the church, and he had to call and talk to the Pope himself, I believe it was, asking for permission to conduct the exorcism, like we've seen other priests do and require in other forms of media and other movies, like The Conjuring. He hangs up the phone, and then I wish I could remember her name. The other sister walks in and asks how it went, and all he says was, "I've been excommunicated." And fuck, I shouldn't laugh, but it fucking got me so good. So I thought he was gonna get clean, like sweep, like, yeah, perform the exorcism, but no, he just got been excommunicated. So, mind you, this isn't Sister Ruth. Sister Ruth has been missing and has her vendetta, but I digress. With Father Bryce, whips out the Exorcism for Dummies book, which is also funny, as the Chucky doll is like a dummy doll, sort of. So I don't know if there's much association there, but it's just a neat kind of double laugh and double kind of component. But now we got Father Bryce saying he's going rogue, and this scene was probably a intended send-off for him, because holy shit. Basically, screw the church. We get this super sexy slow-mo scene of him declothing and re-robing in his special, like, exorcist garments. Like, man, this was a hot and sweaty scene. I was feeling it like 5:30 in the morning. Oh my god. And now we see Sister Ruth, finally. And this is where she confronts Lexi about the pills. And then we transition away, only speculating that, oh, she's going to do something super, super shady. So we get a funny parallel equivalent scene of, remember I said Chucky, good Chucky has the Hannibal mask. So Glenda approaches Chucky when Chucky's all tied up. He's really dropping the good guy act now and is getting very evil again. But Glenda wants answers. And of course, Chucky just wants his weapon to get out of there. He's asking Glenda, I'll tell you everything, but just go and get my knife and then give it back to me here. So Glenda freaks at him for being like Mom and never being there and lying to both Glenn and Glenda. But you have Chucky kind of calling Glenda out. Just I know what you're really like. You're more like your old man, kind of stuff like that. Just like trying to call. He's calling the shots and calling her out for the way that, or calling them out for the way that they act. So Glenda does have a confessional scene, however, with Father Bryce, revealing how they killed someone and how they miss miss Glenn, and wants Father Bryce to pray for them. So, I mean, that's kind of been something that we've known is throughout this show, Glenn and Glenda have been keeping communication with each other, and they have that very strong bond with each other, and they miss each other. So, getting into the next sequence is where the exorcism starts. Chucky is fucking off, like firing all and cylinders right here. He is just talking shit. He starts talking shit. Well, putting Devin right by the head of Chucky was not good. They should have put people that don't have any association with Chucky up at the front so that they could properly deal with the blow of him just talking shit. When Father Bryce starts tossing the holy water on him, he just starts sizzling. And like, fuck, he is sizzling like a steak on the pan. Like, let's be honest here. So, like I said with the insults, Devin is up at the front holding him down, and the exorcism is being conducted, and Chucky just looks at, almost gets Devin, because he's like, oh, your mom is sucking cocks in hell. Pardon my French, but that's what he says. Just horrible, horrible things to say. And then starts messing with everyone about talking about who he's killed. That's kind of everyone has cared about the past. And he's good, though. He's really good. And he's really messing around with the people. But Father Bryce finally finishes up the lines, almost finishes. And Chucky starts like tripping out and is like, oh, I'm like freaking out. He does get to the point where there's so much going on that he just passes out. I believe he pukes here, too. Father Bryce leans in and just starts like whispering a little bit more. And I don't know why you would get in close to the mouth. Never get in close to the mouth. But Chucky just wakes up, bites this guy's lip. The blood appears. Nika sees the blood and turns into Prime Chucky, who admits that, hey, he's in on this and wants the body. They don't give a shit. So Kyle just runs up and just punches the shit out of Nika, turning her back. And this is when we get, the quick transition of Tiffany in Jennifer's body. She's kind of explaining to Glenn about how she's going to love being a doll again. Glenn gives no fudges about this at all, but they notice that doll Jennifer is wriggling free and actually gets out of her like hand brace ties, ropes, I guess you could say. She manages to run and get out of this car, running away. Tiffany Valentine like sees her and just, oh, holy shit, gotta run after her. So she's running after her. And this caught me by surprise because a semi truck comes in, and you know what happens here, because semi truck comes and just hits poor Jennifer in this doll body, exploding her. This poor woman. Oh my god. So she is officially toast. And it was definitely a very, very brutal scene. Holy shit. It was just a lot of blood. And yeah, you can tell too when they transition out the practical effects of the doll with a little kid running along. They did a good job with this, with the camera work. It really, really is. It's funny. But yeah, Jennifer is officially dead in this bloody explosion. And now it makes for an interesting dynamic for Tiffany Valentine. But yeah, she doesn't have the doll body that she can transfer back into, so now she needs to find another one. So we'll see how that works. You can imagine Tiffany Valentine is freaking out big time. So we transition back to the exorcism now. They smack Nika, like I said, bring her back away from being Chucky, and the exorcism completes. Chucky is floating up into the air, the soul leaves, and then we're golden. The body falls down on the table, completely lifeless and unanimated, an empty vessel. However, Chucky didn't go to hell. He went into Father Bryce, and oh my fucking god, the amount of times they replayed this next scene was absolutely bonkers. I should have counted, and but I didn't. I like, holy shit, probably at least 10 times from 10 different angles every time. Father Bryce is having a Nika Chucky situation. Two souls in one body. While he's, at first, okay, Chucky's there, and then all of a sudden Father Bryce comes in and says something like briefly, they just spontaneously explode and they do not hold back. Like, it was just unfathomable. And again, they replayed the scene, like they showed the boom and then they showed the boom again and then the boom, 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 boom. It was fucking nuts. And I still don't understand why he exploded. I think he just maybe did some self-serving kamikaze in the name of the Lord or something like that. But shit, Father Bryce and Chucky are done. At least former good Chucky is. So this is now when we transition to Father Bryce's confessional, and this is when we get a very deep moment finally with him and some proper development, I'd say, with this character. So it was very, very good, and unfortunately, though, now that freaking death, holy shit. But Chucky doll is empty and ready for Prime Chucky soul to take over. This segues to Nika Pierce's confessional, and as she's basically doing the soul transfer, Nika then passes out, and Chucky starts waking up. The group wastes no time, and Jake douses Chucky into the holy water, just drowning him, just like, fucking him over. And now Sister Ruth finally makes her appearance, and this is when things kind of are concluding into this crazy finale of this episode here. Lexi is held at gunpoint by Sister Ruth, and the doctor seems to be expecting this, and this is where I think, okay, they must have been in cahoots this whole time. Jake makes this trade for Lexi's life, as per Sister Ruth's demands, letting the doctor and Chucky leave in exchange. Sister Ruth is still going fucking bonkers, but then Glenda wastes no time. Glenda tosses a throwing knife, and they take down Sister Ruth, who, with a disturbing scene, pulls the knife out of her own eye, and you see the eyeball come out of the knife. Just brutal shit. And the whole group basically charges off, quite fittingly so. Andy picks up former Sister Ruth's gun, catches up to the doctor, and fires off shots. The doctor doesn't get hit, but drops Chucky, runs away, leaving Andy to basically enjoy every second of this killing blow on Chucky Prime. Now, Chucky's jaw is off, so it sounds like Chucky is laughing, but this is when things get kind of convoluted. And I feel like, okay, the jaw came off for a reason here when Chucky shot the doll. So I started to wonder, like, okay, maybe someone else was inside this doll here, which we'll talk about at the end, because Andy kills the doll. And I refuse to believe that Chucky Prime is officially dead. Like, Chucky is Chucky, don't get me wrong, but they made a severe point in case of, hey, this is Chucky Prime. And Chucky Prime, he's been kicking around since Child's Play 1, and we got to make sure Chucky Prime's still kicking around. So after finally dying, however, no jaw attached, we get a flashback to a scene where Glenda sits in the church. I shouldn't say flashback, it's a scene transition, actually, but Glenda finds a carving of CLR on the wooden bench. CLR, Charles Lee Ray, not the cleaner, CLR strong. But then shows the dagger has the same initials carved on it, the dagger that Glenda used to kill Sister Ruth with. Now, I believe this is insinuating Glenda's maybe the new Chucky to a degree. They put Chucky Prime's body into a pyre, and we get a sincere moment here. I love this. I thought this was fantastic. I just liked when Andy and Kyle were talking, a moment of them being together. And then it flashes to, personally, my favorite film of the franchise, Child's Play 2. And it just cuts to them when they're leaving the toy factory. I frickin' loved it. It just felt like such what a tribulative adventure that these two have been on. And it finally concluded in this situation here. So it seems. But Nika and Glenda have a nice moment together, but they don't have it last long as Tiffany Valentine and Glenn drive up. Nika pulls out a gun on Tiffany, but shit, I don't blame her for pulling the gun out. She got her limbs removed by this crazy woman. Glenn dolphin dives in front and saves Tiffany, takes the bullet. Then injured Glenn is basically picked up by Tiffany and Glenda into the car where they race away. So in my interpretation of that, we're going to see, okay, maybe they decide to take Glenn and put Glenn's soul back into the doll because they have the doll's body. And then I reckon Glenda will still be kicking around, or maybe they would put Glenda into the doll body with Glenn. It's tough to say what they're going to do, but I'm curious. I'm very, very freaking curious. So after this, we get to see the doctor's confessional. who she confides that she will release Chucky onto the world, and she knows that. And for the way of this to work, for the Exorcist, that the Father Bryce can't reveal any of this. It all has to be in the confidentiality of the church and the confessional booth. So she's very happy about the idea of putting Chucky out everywhere. But as she is driving away, post of this confessional, she clearly knows something's up. Well, actually, sorry. In the confessional, she knows that something's up. And again, that continues on in this post scene here when she's driving away after surviving from the school. She starts laughing as she's driving away. And holy shit, she sounds exactly like she's laughing like a Chucky. And so I speculate that she somehow maybe did a quick soul swap that we didn't see while Sister Ruth held them at gunpoint. There was that a long enough amount of time that something could have happened there. And so that's my speculation. Now, like I said, this would have made for a great finale, leaving things on edge, but holy shit, no. I watched the preview for next week, and it looks absolutely fabulous. I can't wait to get this conclusion to this season next week and just get the little bit of the Christmas theme going on. It's going to be a good frickin' time. I can't wait. But that is all the time I have for this episode. Thank you for tuning into this review of episode 7 of Chucky Season 2. I will be back promptly next week to dive into the season finale. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the search bar. Have a good one.